Today's workshop is Implementing Dr. Ross Greene's Collaborative Proactive Solutions Model at Home. I'm excited to introduce you to Sara Wilkins, Volunteer Coordinator and Facilitator of the Kid Connections Program at All Brains Belong, Vermont. Sara has been working with children and families in various capacities for the past 25 years. She has directed summer day camps, run after-school programs, taught at several childcare centers, and both taught at and held a leadership position in a Montessori school. Sara also serves in the role of Lead Advocator for the state of Vermont on behalf of the nonprofit Lives in the Balance. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sara, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Okay, we're going to put my slides up here and we can start. So today we're going to be talking about something called CPS and an intentional family culture. Who am I? Well, you just got a little bit of a brief bio. I grew up in Vermont. I worked with children for 25 years in various capacities. I am a mom to 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. I found CPS when my oldest was 5 years old because I was looking for a better way to relate. This is not a quick fix or a gimmicky model, and that's what I like about it. It's based in research done in the last 20 plus years in neuroscience, and it's an empirically proven model. So what is an intentional family culture anyway? These are some things that I thought of when I was brainstorming what makes an intentional family culture. Communication, support, values, goals, sharing your goals, both your short-term and your long-term goals, how your family celebrates wins, both big and small. What are your family's belief systems? What does your environment or space look like? And that often is something that's evolving as parents know, as your children get older and their interests change, and it reflects, where the family's at. And then how you celebrate routine as well as special occasions. And if anyone has any other things that they might want to put in the chat, feel free. In terms of, yeah, I see that somebody wrote from, Rachel wrote, feel free to type anything into the chat if there were any other family culture things that you can think of. I'll keep going. If you think of any, feel free to throw them in the chat. When you're parenting, the majority of books out there focus on behavior. So I just tried Googling it. And if you Google parenting through tough behavior, you'll get 7.1 million results. This idea of focusing on behavior dates back many, many years to the work of people like B.F. Skinner, who coined the term operant conditioning, or John Watson in the 1920s, who showed that an infant could be taught to fear a rat by pairing a loud sound of a steel bar being hit on a hammer with exposure to the rat. It's pretty obvious when we look at studies like this now, just how terrible it was. But unfortunately, this experiment and others like it informed the work of a lot of parenting advice to come. What is, oops, we're going, there we go. Okay, but the problem with behavior is that it gives us very little information. It's late in the interaction, not early. And it doesn't tell us what's wrong. Many of you have probably seen this picture of an iceberg with the top of the iceberg above the water. And it says behavior is like an iceberg. So what you see is just the tip of the iceberg. And if you were to look underneath the iceberg, you would hear questions like, am I safe? Am I loved? Do I matter? I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel scared. I feel hungry or tired. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I have developmental delays. I can't communicate any other way. I feel overstimulated. I have sensory needs. I need understanding or help. So that's really what behavior is telling us. If we dig beneath it, what's really being said are some of those statements or questions. And handling the late. This is one of my favorite quotes. This is Desmond Tutu, and it's, there comes a point where we need to stop pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And the handling what's wrong. This requires a lens shift. For many of us, we grew up in a time when parenting advice really centered around compliance. Here's the biggest shift that needs to happen, according to Dr. Ross Greene. Making the change from thinking about kids do well if they wanna, to kids do well if they can. So if the child's not doing well, something is getting in their way. Who is Dr. Ross Greene? He is an American clinical psychologist. He's written several books, including The Explosive Child, Lost at School, Lost and Found, and Raising Human Beings. He was on the faculty at Harvard Medical School for over 20 years. He's the founder of the CPS model, and he's the founder of a nonprofit based out of Portland, Maine, called Lives in the Balance. Dr. Greene and Plan B. So the name of what Dr. Greene practices as part of this model is called Plan B. It's related to CPS. So when he talks about looking at how to handle a situation with a child, in his books, he breaks it down this way. So Plan A is the mainstream model of current parenting advice. It's top down. You're solving the problem unilaterally. So it's, you're not doing what I want you to do, Johnny, so you need to do it this way because I told you so. That's Plan A, okay? So that's what we're trying to get away from. Plan B, which is what Ross Greene focuses his work on, is solving the problem collaboratively, so with the child. And Plan C is just setting the problem aside for now. It's not permissive. It's not, we're never gonna get to this problem. It's, we're just putting this problem aside for right now because we're triaging what needs to be handled. But we'll come back to that in a minute. So more about Plan B. So there's 4 important themes in Plan B. The first is that the emphasis is on problems and solving them rather than on behaviors and modifying them. The second is that problem solving is collaborative rather than unilateral. So it's something you're doing with the child rather than to the child. The third is that problem solving is proactive rather than emergent. So you're not doing this in the heat of the moment. You're doing it at a time that's calm and relaxed when you can be proactive around it. And the fourth is that the understanding comes before helping. Indeed, understanding is the most important part of helping. And that was all taken directly from a presentation by Dr. Ross Greene. So CPS, the features of choosing a new plan, Plan B, make up the methodology of Dr. Greene, also known as collaborative proactive solutions, CPS. CPS requires the lens shift to one of lagging skills and unsolved problems and not of manipulation. So what you're trying to do is to move away from this kid is giving me a hard time, they're causing this problem, to what is this kid struggling with? What skills are they lagging in that might be causing this problem? What are some unsolved problems here? Because a lot of times people think that behavior comes out of nowhere and they say, I don't know, it just came out of nowhere. But if we really start to look at when things are happening, how they're happening, we can start to see some patterns and we can start to be proactive around solving those problems instead of predictably getting into the situation again. So this is a image taken from the Lives in the Balance website. And it's 2 people looking at a child in a chair. And it says, the female that's standing on a stool with a very large telescope is looking at the child and through a lens of lacking skills and saying, these are different lenses. And then the other person in the image is looking at it through a very small telescope at the child, and it says manipulative. So when we change the way that we look at the behavior, we look at the situation that the child's having to one of lacking skills instead of manipulation, we're shifting our lens, and that's the first step to CPS. Why not focus on behavior? So here's a quote by Dr. Ross Greene. If you're focused on behavior, there are only a few strategies that are going to get you there, and most of them have nothing to do with reward and punishment. No reward, no punishment solves any of the problems that are causing challenging behavior, or enhances any of the skills that a kid is lacking that are causing them to exhibit challenging behavior in response to those unsolved problems. So one of the biggest shifts is helping people move from a primary focus on behavior. In a recent talk that Dr. Greene gave on reducing restraint and seclusion, which is something that still happens in schools across this country, he was asked about equity and what it means in his organization. And here's how he defined equity. Equity here at Lives in the Balance is defined as everyone getting what they need, meeting every kid where they're at, and every kid gets what they need. How does this relate to All Brains Belong, the organization that I work for, founded by Dr. Mel Hauser? We all have different brains that think, learn, play, communicate, socialize, and experience the world differently. That is why we need to investigate why a child feels the way they do. Otherwise, we're just projecting and inferring our own ideas onto the situation. So here's the nuts and bolts behind solving the problem. It's called the ALSUP. And ALSUP stands for the Assessment of Lagging Skills and Unsolved Problems. You can access all of these tools for free on the Lives in the Balance website. And basically what the ALSUP is a way for you to start recording some of the problems that you're experiencing with the child and trying to start triaging and breaking down what the problems really are. So being really specific about the problem. For example, Johnny has a hard time getting off the Xbox when it's time for dinner. That's a specific problem that you want to look at. And identifying, which problems are the most important is part of the ALSUP, so that you can say, okay, these are problems that we want to try to solve right now, and these are ones that are can be Plan C. We can just put them aside for now, and we'll get to them. Okay, so the ALSUP is a tool that parents and caregivers use to break down the clumped up problems by writing out specific information in the chart provided. All the unsolved problems simply involve an expectation in which a child is having difficulty meeting. So here we're just looking at what's the expectation. The expectation is we're all going to come to dinner. That's your expectation. And if Johnny picks up a chair and throws it across the room, that's not what we're focused on. So we're not focusing on the behavior. We're focusing on what happened in advance of that situation and not trying to solve it at the moment at which the chair got thrown. Trying to solve it at a different time proactively to prevent it from happening again. The first step is to get very specific and identify the individual problems. And like I said, that's where you can begin to prioritize which ones are going to be handled now, which is Plan B, and which ones should be tabled, Plan C. Once the ALSUP is completed, it's time to sit down with the child and address the most pressing problems. So here are the 3 steps that Dr. Ross Greene talks about for CPS. Okay, so this is actually how you're going to practice it when you're sitting down with a child. The first step is the empathy step. So this is the getting information step. It's very important to get information from the child's perspective, because a lot of times we think we know why a child's having a hard time and we don't really know. And so this is about sort of listening and reflecting and not trying to interject your ideas. So this part is really, really important. It's like the most important part. So here's an example of what this might look like for the empathy step. I've noticed it is difficult for you to brush your teeth before bed at night. What's up? After the child shares the perspective, the important thing is to be active listening and summarizing what they tell you. You're not interjecting your ideas here. This is just about the child's perspective on this step. Okay, now the second step is called define the problem. So in the define the problem step, you're talking about the same concerns as in plan A. So if you were to try and solve the problem in the traditional plan A way, it would be because I told you you need to do it, and that's why you have to do it. That's plan A. But this time, you're presenting that message about what you need to have happen completely differently. So you're saying something like, for example, the thing is, I'm concerned if you don't brush your teeth that, here you're filling in, what's your concern? So the first step, the empathy step, you're getting the child's perspective. Now step two, you're sharing your perspective, but it's done in a very different way with very different energy. And the third step is called the invitation step. So in this step, you're trying to come to a solution that totally addresses the concern of both parties. Otherwise, the problem is still unsolved. So it's important that it has to work for the kid, and it also has to work for you, has to work for both parties. So otherwise, the problem is still unsolved. So for example, I wonder if there's a way where we could still make sure that you brush your teeth at night, but also, and here's where you're going to insert the child's concerns. So the idea is that the solution is mutually agreed upon. And at the end, you could say something like, would that work for you? And the key is to remember to go slow. And it might take some time, and it probably will take a lot of practice. Because a lot of times kids have gotten used to adults just telling them what needs to happen. And they're used to adults not listening to them and their perspective. So they might be not really engaged with the process for a while. And you might have to plan C some stuff for a while and, kind of come back to it over time and just work on building trust and connection. So here is, okay, I have a question in the chat. So actually, Mel, if we can go back one slide to where we were. The question in the chat is, can you talk a little bit about how one might help schools see children through this lens? Do you know of any schools that do? This is often an issue as teachers and school staff do not always have time to engage in this type of thoughtful process. Have you done any training in schools for school staff? Is this something you would be interested in? Planning rooms are often reactive versus proactive. Totally agreed. And one of the things that Lives in the Balance is focused on is, first of all, supporting families to do just this, to practice this at home with their own kids, and also working with schools. And so the talk that I went to on restraint and seclusion was given by Dr. Greene, and also there was a speaker there who is a special education school administrator in the state of Maine. And she talked about how things had gotten really, really not good at her school in terms of restraint and seclusion, and people were getting hurt, and there was a lot of stress and a lot of emergent situations. And her training was in behavioral modification. So this was new to her, the idea of CPS, but she sort of felt like they didn't have anything else to do except to just give it a shot because things were going so poorly. So they implemented it with the help of Dr. Greene and his team. And they have research now, they have numbers to show that they were able to turn things around, and they've reduced a lot of the issues that they were having. And so that is part of the goal, is like getting this information to families, getting this information to schools, and then also working to create advocacy at a legislative level, both each individual state as well as federal legislation around things like restraint and seclusion. So yes, I'm very interested in spreading the word on this. That's why I do what I do. This is a volunteer position with being an advocator for Lives in the Balance. I want to spread the word to as many people as I can that there's a better way, and this has been shown to work. So thank you for the question. Mel, if you can share the video clip, I want to show a clip now of Dr. Greene actually practicing CPS with a kiddo that was at a conference he was doing with the permission of the family.
So here's what it's going to sound like.
Okay.
Joshua, I've noticed that it's sometimes hard for you to go to the dentist. What's up? Now you talk.
I don't want to go to the dentist because on the radio I have music. And I won't listen to it. Every time the dentist ruins my time.
Let me make sure I understood what you just said, okay?
Okay. Every time I listen to music, beautiful music, and I don't want to go to the dentist. And that time, when I go to the dentist, the radio station, that kind of radio station is on, and I don't want to go to the dentist.
I see. Let me make sure I got it right. Are you ready? If I get anything wrong, you let me know, okay?
Okay.
Sometimes when it's time to go to the dentist, you're listening to some beautiful music on a radio station.
And when I go to the dentist, the radio station is on only when I go to the dentist.
The music on the radio station is on when you're supposed to be going to the dentist.
Yes.
And you don't want to miss it.
Yes.
Do I have it right?
Yeah.
All right. So, one of the reasons you might not be wanting to go to the dentist is because you're listening to beautiful music on the radio station and you don't want to miss the music because it's only on at that time.
When I go to the dentist.
When you go to the dentist.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Are there any other reasons? You guys, Mom and Dad, you understand that?
Yes.
Good?
Yeah.
Boy, you're doing a great job so far.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be good at this. Any other reasons that you're having difficulty going to the dentist?
Because it's too tiring. I don't want to do it every time.
It's too tiring to go to the dentist.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Well, those are two different things. It's too tiring, I think, is one thing. I don't like it is another. Tell me about the I don't like it part. What don't you like about it?
I'm not sure.
You know what would help me is to know why you're going to the dentist in the first place. I don't know why you're even going to the dentist. Why are you going to the dentist?
Because to get my teeth to get my teeth cleaned, so I have rotten teeth and broken teeth. My teeth will be healthy.
I guess that's a good thing. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Good thing to have healthy teeth?
Yeah.
All right. I go to the dentist for the same reason. They clean my teeth.
Yeah.
So they're healthy and so that they're not all cracked and broken and brown and craggedy and, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you think that's a good idea, but there's also something about getting your teeth cleaned that you don't like. Is there something about getting your teeth cleaned that you don't like?
The machine. The machine out here or here?
I think I know the machine you mean. Are they two different things?
Little tiny circle, like and the circle, little tiny dot twists and put it in your teeth. I don't know.
Is there the one, I don't know which machines they're using, is there the one that sucks water out of your mouth?
No.
Kind of sits right here? They don't use that one?
No.
So it's just like a teeth cleaner that goes like this?
Spins.
Spins? And is there the scraper that goes like this?
No.
They don't use a scraper?
Not yet.
No.
Good. And so the one machine is like an electric toothbrush that spins?
I'm gonna go there every time.
But we're going many times to get you used to it. And you're doing a much
I like
better
it.
job now. It's getting better and better. You're able to do more and more with your teeth every time we go.
So they're cleaning more and more of his teeth?
Yes.
Yes.
And is this primarily...
No, and
Yes?
and like like and today I was in that. Now the new one, a toothpick. I didn't like it. Well, I don't like it.
Got it. Now, I gotta ask your parents something before we go on. Did you guys know that stuff? Is there any part of that stuff you guys did not know? Is any of this new information?
No, we knew that he didn't like tools in his mouth.
Okay. How about
not the radio? I know nothing about the radio.
the radio we didn't know?
No.
Okay.
I like the radio.
Right. All right, so here's what we know. You don't want to miss the music on the radio. Okay, Mom and Dad, this is a summary. Okay, but we're always...
Wait, and
Yes?
I yell at Mommy and hit Mommy. I don't want to go to the dentist. I don't want to go to the dentist.
Well, that's what
And I
happened.
pull her hair.
Right, well, that we don't want you doing, right?
No.
Right. That's what happens because this problem isn't solved yet, right?
Okay.
Because your mom is still trying to get you to go to the dentist, even though you're missing the music, and even though the instruments are in your mouth, right? But if we could do something about those things, I wonder if that would make it so that you could go to the dentist without a problem. But I still want to hear more. Here's what we know so far. You don't want to miss the music on the radio, and there's some things about having those instruments in your mouth that you don't like.
No. Machines.
Machines. Is there...
No. There's one machine and two non.
Got it. The machine is the electric brush. The non-machines are the picker and the other.
No.
Things I won't like about going to the dentist. I don't like about like. I know something. I know something about my teeth. I brush. Oh yeah. In front, it hurts.
When you brush at home or
Now,
when you go to the
can you
dentist?
hear me? I think
Yep. We're
I
done.
was putting my.
Okay.
Thank you. It goes on from there, as you can see. And it's a slow process having these conversations. As you can see, it's not a rushed thing. Yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Thank you, Mel. So that last slide there, actually, the one with the dad and child. Okay, so in this picture is presumably a father and child, adult caregiver, and a child sitting on a blanket together outside camping with a tent in the background. And it's, as I was just saying, it's important to allow for pauses, as you can see with Dr. Greene, really taking his time, allowing for pauses with a lot of clarification of what the child was saying, and be willing to try a solution for a few days or a week and see how it goes, because plan B can always be revisited. It's not written in stone. You can always come back and say, how's this working? Is this working for you, but it's not working for me? Let's go back and have another conversation about it. This is for all kids. So one of the titles, as I was saying, of Dr. Greene's book is The Explosive Child, which is a bit of a misnomer because it's really for any child. And quite frankly, it's for any person. It's a really great method for communicating about any difference that you want to talk about. So here's another quote by Dr. Greene. All kids have times when they struggle to handle expectations. Parents often get stuck in trying to manage concerning behavior, but all concerning behavior is communicating the same thing. There's an expectation that the child is having difficulty meeting, and that means there's a problem that needs to be solved. In CPS, the problem solving is collaborative and proactive. As I was saying before, the research backs up this model. So the collaborative and proactive solutions model is recognized as an empirically supported evidence-based treatment by the California Evidence Clearinghouse for Child Welfare. Dr. Greene has worked with children in some very tough situations, because I've heard a lot of people say, well, that would never work with my kid. But I think it's been pretty clearly shown now after the many years that it's been implemented that this has been practiced with a lot of different types of kids, including some kids who are in juvenile detention facilities. And there's been success with this model. If your child is nonverbal, CPS can still be practiced. So this is a common question. There's something called the 5-finger strategy. So the 5-finger strategy is a way to make a guess about what may be bothering the child if they're having difficulty talking or explaining the empathy step of a Plan B conversation. So you start by asking the child to respond to silly or goofy statements to learn the strategy. For example, you like spaghetti or you don't like ice cream. Ask the child to show their fingers to practice with silly statements before using the strategy to guess concerns for the empathy step of a Plan B conversation. So 5 fingers would be very true. 4 fingers would be pretty true. 3 fingers, sort of true. 2 fingers, not very true. And 1 finger would be not true at all. And I wanted to end with a few memes. This is by a woman named Pam Leo. When we see parenting as the job of trying to control children's behavior, parenting is a struggle because we cannot control children's behavior. When we see our job as that of meeting needs, we enjoy our children because we can meet children's needs. This is Brene Brown. It's titled The Power of Empathy, and it's presumably a mother and child hugging each other in the picture. I'm in it with you. I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to feel it for you. I'm here to feel with you and let you know that you are not alone. This is a picture of a presumably a father holding their child in their arms lovingly. It's by a woman named Heather Wagoner. Being listened to is so close to being loved that sometimes your brain can't tell the difference. There is so much about being human that is associated with being listened to. Empathy, connection, acceptance, some of the biggest things that we as humans want all start with listening. This is a picture of a parent or a caregiver walking with a toddler who's just learning how to walk through the grass. They're holding the child's fingers as the child learns to walk. Thinking of your child as behaving badly disposes you to think of punishment. Thinking of your child as struggling to handle something difficult encourages you to help them through their distress. And that's from the Gottman Institute. And this is a quote by Dr. Greene. It's an adult, perhaps in a school or at home, sitting with a child at a table, smiling. Both the child and the adult are smiling and looking at each other. And the quote is, "Power causes conflict, collaboration brings people together." And that's Dr. Greene. And I wanted to end with one final quote by a woman named Dr. Anne Louise Lockhart. And she's been at several conferences that I've attended, and she is a big fan of CPS, and she just has a way with words. So I'm going to end with that, and then we have plenty of time for questions. If there's one message, it's this: you don't have to fix your child. You don't have to make them do anything. You don't have to correct something in order to make them feel that they've arrived. It's about giving them the message that I'm there for you, that you're not too much for me, and we will figure this out together, that you have their back and you will work through all of the messiness with them. And know that they can internalize the message that when it came right down to it, my parent or caregiver had my back. And that's the end of the presentation. I noticed a couple of questions come in on the chat, so I can go to that right now. Let me open that up. Okay, so Caitlin asks, I'd love to hear strategies for kids who typically say they don't know why and they don't have ideas. I genuinely think my daughter is stumped, but I don't want to come up with all of the ideas either. That's a really good question, and it's a common question. So first, I would just say that an option is the 5-finger strategy that I talked about. That can be used both if the child's nonverbal, but also if the child's just sort of getting to know the CPS process. And like I was saying earlier as well, it can take some time for a child to build trust that when they share what they're feeling, the adult is going to take them seriously, because a lot of kids for a long time, they haven't had that. And so when they've shared what they were feeling, there wasn't any action taken as a result of that. So it can take some time. So I guess the biggest answer to that question is just patience. Sometimes it's plan seeing things that aren't just super emergent, just putting them on the back burner. It's really about relationship. And the most important thing is connection and attachment and relationship. And so if you can focus on that and try to be patient, like I said, this is a common question from people. Let's see, I'm gonna see, I made some notes because I got this question. I don't know if it was you, Caitlin, that asked it ahead of time, but somebody, okay, yeah. So I went on to the Lives in the Balance website, has, frequently asked questions, because I wanted to make sure that I gave you as comprehensive an answer as I could. And one of the things in my notes that I have is that making sure that your unsolved problem is, first of all, unclumped. A lot of parents, sometimes when they first start this, they're like, oh, all the things, and they try to put it together, and I've done this, like try to put it together into too much information. And so the more that you can pull it apart and get very specific with a very specific problem, that's helpful. And another thing that was stated on the website was making sure that your unsolved problem is neutral, positive, concrete, unclumped, upstream, and doesn't involve feelings or behavior, which is hard because a lot of us, it's like, I noticed when you did this that you threw the chair, or I don't know, you broke something, or you hit your brother, or whatever the behavior is, because we grow up in a society that we're told to focus on modifying those behaviors. And so it's a paradigm shift, it's a lens shift to look at it as this child's having a hard time. They're not giving me a hard time. And so I think that it just takes time to, and what I've talked to families who have, their kids are college age now, and they started this, somewhere in middle childhood, and maybe they did things a different way for many, many years before discovering CPS. And so their kid was reluctant to really, or didn't really trust the whole process. And it just took time. And and time and again, people say, it's amazing when I listen to my child now, how far they've come in understanding the CPS process and trusting it. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see what the other questions were. So Christine, can you talk a little bit more about how one might help schools see children through this lens? Oh wait, is that the one I already answered? Yeah, that was about schools. Okay, that was from earlier. Okay, so Caitlin, you also asked, one of my challenges is that it seems my daughter has an endless need for that connection and listening, and we do a lot of it. But how to balance this with her brother's needs, how to support her in understanding that in a family we take turns and it can't always be about her. Yeah, I have a 7 and a 10-year-old, so, and I homeschool, so I'm at home with them pretty much all the time. We're out in the community, or we're together pretty much all the time. And balancing everyone's needs is something we talk a lot about. And in All Brains Belong, the language that's used is access needs. So what are your access needs? What are my access needs? And sort of discussing what you need out of this situation that's going to make it feel good to you versus what somebody else needs. And so I think, again, it's just patiently explaining this over and over and over again. I think sometimes, I notice in my own kids, they can be really reactive and just like, well, I need the thing and I need it right now. It's like slowing that down and like, okay, so it sounds like you're trying to tell me you need this, and that's your, those are your access needs, and you can share that with me and I will take that seriously. So I think a lot of it is just practicing it and trusting the process. And again, not trying to handle stuff in the heat of the moment. So, and when a kid is having a hard time is not the time to try and solve the problem, because everybody's limbic system, even you as the adult, are going to feel a little hijacked by the energy in the room. And so this question came up when I was talking about this with All Brains Belong with CPS, is just having the conversation at a time when everyone's calm, especially if you're the only parent in the room and there isn't anyone else to help step in and take over as a caregiver or a teacher or, you know, somebody working with children. They can feel that energy. So being able to step away from it and come back to it when things are calm to handle it proactively. Donna says, it sounds very much like nonviolent communication strategies and practices. Everything is about trying to get needs met. Yes, yes. There's a lot of intersectionality and overlap in, I think, NVC and CPS. Rob says, can you describe some strategies for how to move to plan C and pause when the child is having trouble moving on? Continued kicking, yelling after being told no about something. Great question. I think it's different for every child. It depends what age they are. It depends on the temperament of the child. Sometimes just speaking as a parent, you know, using humor is helpful, and other times it's not at all helpful. So sort of reading the energy of the situation, sometimes moving to a different space as quick as you can, trying to get outside, for example, and sort of ground yourself and have the child feel sort of grounded by being outside can be helpful if that's possible. I think just validating their feelings, you know, saying, it seems like you're having a really hard time. I totally understand that you're having a hard time. We're going to talk about this, but not right now. Right now, we just want to stay calm and sort of slow our bodies down and do all the things that you probably already are trying. But I think it just comes down to patience. Linda asks, what if the parent is unable to see their part in the negative relationship? Do you mean like a spouse is unable to see their part in the negative relationship, Linda? Let me go to the chat here and see what Linda says. Both parents. Okay. I think there's a lot of really good information on the Lives in the Balance website. It's called the, let's see, I wrote it down, the Walking Tour on the website. There's a lot of free resources. That's how I first learned about Lives in the Balance and Ross Greene and CPS. You can go onto YouTube and search Ross Greene, and there's a lot of good free talks that he's given, and somebody's recorded them, so you can hear him giving suggestions about common things. There's a podcast that he does once a month, and that's helpful, and all of it is available on the website for free, all the old episodes and information. The video clip that I shared today is taken straight off the Lives in the Balance website. So there's examples of how it looks. So I think it's hard because, you know, if people don't want to change something, then you're just going to challenge their assumptions about the way the world works if you try to be too heavy-handed about it. But I think it depends on the situation, and just sharing the resources that are out there and saying, you know, there's a lot of people who have been where you're at and have struggled and have found that this is helpful. Let's see. Wow, we got lots of questions here. Let me go back up. Can you, okay, let's see. Yeah, so Dr. Melissa Hauser, who's on this call with me, who's the founder of All Brains Belong, defines access needs as anything a person needs for full, meaningful engagement and participation, and we all have access needs. So that's a really helpful definition for it. Any advice, Christine asks, any advice for helping extended family understand this approach? Sometimes folks think you're not doing what you need to raise a good human, when that is exactly what you are trying to do. Are there any good one-liners? LOL. Mostly to try to keep them from derailing the process in their presence. Some of it comes back to when my children were babies and toddlers, and I went to La Leche meetings, and there was a lot of talk around sort of gentle parenting or breastfeeding or extended breastfeeding, and what do you say? And sort of that pass the bean dip approach where, you know, you're able to sort of just steer the conversation away, very intentionally away from what you're being criticized on. Some of it I feel like is sort of, you might be misunderstood for a while, as the family doesn't really accept or understand what you're doing. And it's a matter of just knowing in your heart that you're trying something that is going to be beneficial, like you said, and just sticking it, you know, just allowing the proof to be in the pudding as your kids get older and they start to see that your children are able to, you know, process stuff in a different way, that there's growth there. It's not something you see right away. So it takes a lot of trust in yourself and in your family. And sometimes resources are helpful to share with extended family, and sometimes they're not, because sometimes it just results in more cognitive dissonance when you say there's this great thing and they don't really understand it. So I think it kind of goes along with parenting in general, sort of trusting your own instincts and knowing that you're doing what's best for your child. Ali, no, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. Alili. I think it is also important to use family values in tough conversations. For example, in our family, we do not hurt each other's bodies because we want to feel comfortable together. Reminding kids of the family values and expectations may help remind them that hitting is never allowed or okay, and we solve our differences with talking, etc. Yeah, great point. I think it really, a lot of it comes down to setting the tone for your family. And I think including children in those conversations is great too. You know, having family meetings and discussing, you know, what are our family values and what do we want it to look like to be here, to share this space together. Does anybody want to turn on, can people, Jamie, turn on their mic or have a conversation if anyone wants to do that? Or is it just through the chat function?
People can unmute if they
Okay.
want, turn on their camera too.
Feel free if anyone wants to
Sarah,
engage in dialogue.
Sarah, I'm going to jump right in there. Do you have any comments or thoughts on sort of diet, the role that maybe diet plays in kids' behavior? I've been seeing some issues with my daughter that are pretty much always at the end of a long period of playing and probably with some low blood sugar. And we looked carefully at diet recently and found that there was way too much, you know, high sugar foods, not just candy, but like, you know, white bread or whatever. And so I'm kind of trying to take that approach, as well as maybe also great stuff that I've learned today. So I think this is going to be one more piece of the puzzle, but any comments on how diet could play into this?
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad you liked it. You know, I'm not a doctor, so I don't, you know, I know that it's helpful to look at the whole situation with any child and to consider a holistic view of what might be affecting behavior. That's kind of part of being proactive. So looking at how much sleep everyone in the house is getting, what the diet is like, what your level of activity is like. I know, for example, just speaking from my own experience as a parent, that my child might be stressed or anxious. And if we get out for a walk, that's really helpful. Being outside, you know, is really helpful. And so I think there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. And, you know, I think that, collaborative proactive solutions is a really big part of how to solve conflict when it comes up. But, I don't really have much to say on diet, except to say that I think it's part of a bigger picture for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So we have about 8 minutes left, it looks like, if anyone else wants to ask a question. Most of the questions that I got ahead of time were about what to do when my kid's having a tantrum or an outburst. And I think that we've kind of addressed that through the conversation that we've had today around, collaboratively and proactively having conversations with a child. I don't know of any schools specifically that are implementing CPS. That was a question that came up as well. Yeah, I'm working on that, trying to spread the word about CPS. For example, there's a school in Vermont that is recently looked at restraint and seclusion and revisiting how they handle behavioral issues in their school.
When you talk about restraint and seclusion, what do you mean? I think I know, but I'm not familiar with those terms.
Yeah, so restraint.
Probably obvious, but.
Yep. So restraint would be holding a child down against their will. And there's different types of restraint. One type of restraint is prone restraint, holding a child either face down or face up. There's names for both those things. And obviously that's the most severe kind of restraint that you want to move away from. And seclusion being pretty much what it sounds like, putting a kid by themselves into a space where they're alone and thinking that that is going to change things in the future. It's really harmful to isolate a child who's struggling. And, CPS is about trying to proactively handle some of these issues. I feel for teachers, for example, who are struggling with behaviors in their classroom. But as I saw from listening to this teacher in Maine at this talk, there are ways to solve the problems that keep teachers safe, or if you're a parent, to keep yourself safe or siblings safe, but don't cause harm. So
like a timeout, the philosophy is not embraced. And
yeah, exactly. The idea being that, if a child is struggling with their behavior, the last thing you want to do is separate them from the people that they love and trust. And you want to be with them during that time and make sure everyone's safe, of course, but come back to looking at what caused that situation in the first place and how can we make it work better in the future. It's going to maintain a attachment and connection in a much different way than trying to isolate a child into a space by themselves, whether it's a timeout or a seclusion room. So I'm not sure, which schools, they don't have that information on the Lives in the Balance website. And when I spoke to a representative who works for Lives in the Balance, she said they don't have that information yet. I think it's just, honestly, even though Dr. Greene's been practicing this for decades, I think it's really catching on now. I think we're sort of at a watershed moment with a lot of issues in our country. And I think, it's catching on now. And I think more and more places are trying to look at what to do differently and how to adopt it. And that's what I saw with this recent school district. And another question that came in was, do I know any therapists in the state of Vermont that are CPS certified? And as of right now, there are no therapists in the whole state of Vermont that have gone through the CPS training with Lives in the Balance. So my goal is to change that, to spread the word to parents, to spread the word to schools, to spread the word to therapists that, this is a really cool approach. And there's a lot of trainings offered. Dr. Greene goes to different parts of the world to train therapists and teachers and parents about this. So there's a lot of information out there. All I did today was sort of skim the surface with giving you the basics of the model. But like I said, I don't work for Lives in the Balance. I'm just, I'm just a parent who saw that it was valuable in my own household and want to spread the word. Does anyone else have any questions? We just have a few minutes left.
Well, not seeing any come up in the chat. I wanted to take a moment and say thank you so much, Sarah, for this great information. We really appreciate your time. Thank you, Dr. Hauser, for coming, and we really truly appreciate both of you and this information. So everyone should be seeing in the chat a link for an evaluation. If you could please take a few minutes to complete this so that we can make improvements and fulfill our grant requirements, that would be great. We have more interesting workshops coming up, and you can find details about those on the homepage of our website, which is vermontfamilynetwork.org, along with the links to the previously recorded ones. We have tons of information on our website, and getting connected with us is easy. You can follow us on Facebook or join our closed Facebook page if you are a parent. We have 2 closed groups, one for all parents of children with disabilities, special healthcare needs, and one for those with adult children. You can also sign up for our monthly e-news or check out our YouTube channel. We are here to help, and please contact us by phone or email. And thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. And if you want information about All Brains Belong, you can go to our website where we have a program to connect kids with other kids. It's a free program. So I wanted to let everyone know about that as well. It's just allbrainsbelong.org. So thank you for having me.